The great meeting hall of the Galactic Council shimmered with light. 12 tall seats formed a circle at the center. In these seats sat the 12 oldest species in the known universe. They had ruled the stars for over 10,000 years. Their word was law across millions of worlds. Commander Tae-ho Kim stood straight and tall on the observation deck of the human ship, Defiance. The ship was the pride of Earth's fleet, though it would look small and weak to the Council races. Through the large window, Tae-ho watched as their smaller diplomatic vessel approached the massive Council station. The station itself was bigger than Earth's moon, a shining metal ring that housed representatives from thousands of worlds. Earth had only learned to travel faster than light 30 years ago. Their request to join the Galactic Council had been waiting for an answer for 25 of those years. Today they would finally hear if humans would be welcomed among the stars. "It is a beautiful sight," said Dr. Ji-yeon Park, who stood beside him. As Earth's lead scientist on alien biology, she had earned her place on this historic mission. "I have dreamed of this moment since I was a child, looking up at the night sky." Tae-ho nodded, but did not smile. "Beauty can hide danger. I hope they see us as friends, not threats." "Commander," called Lieutenant Hanbin from his station at the communications panel. His usually calm voice sounded tight with worry. "We are receiving a message from the Council station. They wish to speak with us now." Tae-ho turned from the window. "Put it on the main screen." The large screen at the front of the deck flickered to life. A tall figure appeared. It was not human. Its body looked like blue crystal, with light moving through it like water. This was Council Speaker Rilnath, from a species so old they had been traveling the stars when humans were still living in caves. "Representatives of Earth," the crystal, being said in a voice that sounded like gentle bells. "The Galactic Council has reviewed your application for membership and protection." Tae-ho stepped forward. "We thank the Council for their consideration. The people of Earth are eager to join the galactic community." The crystal being made no movement that could be read as emotion. "Your application has been carefully studied. The Council has decided to classify humanity as a Category 4 species." A heavy silence fell over the deck. Category 4 was only one step above complete quarantine. It meant Earth would be cut off from the rest of the galaxy. They would be allowed minimal trade but no access to advanced technology. They would not be permitted to establish colonies beyond their solar system. They would be watched by Council ships at all times. "On what grounds have we been judged so harshly?" Tae-ho asked, fighting to keep his voice level. "Your species has a concerning history of warfare and conflict," Rilnath responded. "Our predictive models show a 68% chance that allowing humans to freely travel would lead to violence in peaceful regions. Your technology development is also concerning. You moved from basic flight to nuclear weapons in less than 50 Earth years. This pattern suggests instability." Ji-yeon stepped forward. "Speaker Rilnath, we have not had a global war in over 70 years. We have united our planet under a single government. Surely this shows our growth as a species." 70 years is nothing," the crystal being replied. "Some Council members live for thousands of years. Your peace is too new to trust. The decision is final. Earth ships will be permitted to travel only within your home system. Any vessel found beyond the orbit of your outer planets will be turned back or destroyed." The screen went dark before they could respond. "They cannot do this," said Lieutenant Mingi Lee, who worked at the navigation station. "We have already established research bases on Alpha Centauri. We have mining operations on—" "They can and they have," Tae-ho cut in. "The Council controls the jump gates that make long-distance travel possible. They have weapons we cannot match. For now, we must comply." Security Chief Sunwoo slammed his fist on his console. "So we just surrender? We just accept being prisoners in our own solar system?" Tae-ho turned to face his crew. In their eyes, he saw anger, disappointment, and fear. But he also saw determination. Humans had never accepted limits easily. "We accept nothing," he said quietly. "We adapt. We learn. We prepare. The Council thinks they know humans from our history, but they do not know what we can become." Ji-Yan nodded slowly. If they will not let us join as equals, we will find another way. This is not over, Commander. It is just beginning. 3 days later, the Earth ships returned home. The news of their classification spread quickly. There were protests in major cities. Some called for building bigger weapons. Others wanted to hide all signs of military development to appear more peaceful. In a quiet meeting room beneath the United Earth Government building in New Seoul, Commander Taeho sat with Earth's top leaders. President Hyun-Ju Lee looked tired but focused as they discussed their options. The Category 4 restrictions will slow our growth, said Trade Minister Gi-soo. But they will not stop it. We still have our entire solar system to develop. It is not about resources, Ji-Yan countered. It is about freedom, about potential. The Council has decided our future without giving us a chance to prove ourselves. President Lee raised her hand for silence. We have 2 paths before us. We can accept these limits and hope that in 100 years or so they might reconsider. Or we can find ways to change our situation. What ways? Asked Taeho. We cannot fight the Council. Their technology is centuries beyond ours. The President smiled slightly. Who said anything about fighting? Commander Kim, how would you like to captain a new kind of vessel? One the Council does not need to know about? Taeho sat straighter. What kind of vessel? A ship with no official existence. A ghost that can move between the stars without using the jump gates. A ship that can listen, learn, and gather information the Council would rather keep secret. Is that possible? Ji-Yan asked. The Defense Minister nodded. We recovered technology from a crashed scout ship 5 years ago. We have been studying it quietly. We believe we can build a small vessel with its own FTL drive. Taeho thought for a moment. So we do not rebel openly. We watch. We listen. We learn their weaknesses. Exactly, said the President. The Council thinks they know humans. They expect us to either submit or fight directly. They do not expect us to be patient, to be clever. Operation Whisper, Ji-Yan suggested. Because we will not shout our defiance. Not yet. Taeho nodded. Slowly. I accept the command. When do we begin? Immediately, said President Lee. The Council may rule the stars today, but they have never faced humanity before, and they have much to learn about us. As the meeting ended, Taeho looked out the window at the night sky. The stars seemed further away now, but somehow he felt more determined to reach them than ever before. 3 years passed under the Council's restrictions. Earth had publicly accepted the ruling that limited humans to their own solar system. But behind this mask of compliance, they worked on what they called Operation Whisper. Captain Taeho Kim stood on the bridge of the Phantom, a sleek black ship that was invisible to most scanning systems. The vessel had been built using technology reverse-engineered from a crashed alien scout ship. Its engines could travel faster than light without using the Council's jump gates. Its hull absorbed sensor scans rather than reflecting them. Status. Report, Taeho said as he settled into the captain's chair. Science Officer Min-gi Lee looked up from her station. All systems normal, Captain. We are maintaining position behind the moon of Proxima Centauri b. The mining colony below has not detected our presence, Taeho nodded. This was their 5th secret mission beyond the solar system. Their goal was to establish hidden outposts in neutral territories and gather intelligence on Council operations. So far, they had placed listening devices near 3 major trade routes and collected data on ship movements, cargo manifests, and communication patterns. Captain, I am detecting unusual energy signatures from the mining colony, Min-gi said, her voice tense. The readings match weapons testing. Taeho frowned and moved to her station. What kind of weapons? Very powerful ones, she replied. The energy output suggests they are testing planet killers. That is impossible, Security Chief Sunwoo said, joining them. The mining colony belongs to the Sikaran Corporation. They are a Category 3 species. The Council prohibits weapons development in Category 3 systems and below. Yet they are doing it anyway, Min-gi responded. showing them the scan results. These energy signatures cannot be anything else. Tejo studied the data. This was exactly the kind of information Operation Whisper had been created to find. The Council presented itself as fair and just, enforcing peace across the galaxy. But if they allowed privileged species to develop superweapons while restricting others, it would prove their system was corrupt. "Record everything," he ordered. "We need solid evidence." The communications officer, Lieutenant Hanbin, turned from his station. "Captain, we should send this information to Earth immediately." Tejo shook his head. "Not yet. Even our secure channels might be detected. We will complete our mission and deliver everything in person. Keep watching the facility. I want to know who visits, who leaves, and every energy spike they produce." For 3 days, the Phantom remained hidden behind the moon, recording the activities at the Sikaran facility. They observed Council inspection ships arrive, stay briefly, and depart without taking any action against the weapons testing. "They know," Sun Wu said quietly. "The Council knows exactly what is happening here, and they allow it." On the 4th day, they detected a large Sikaran warship entering the system. The Phantom went into full stealth mode, shutting down all non-essential systems to avoid detection. "Captain," Hanbin whispered, though there was no need to be quiet in space. "The warship is hailing the mining colony. Should I try to listen in?" "Do it," Tejo ordered. "But be careful. Their security may be stronger than we have encountered before." Hanbin worked his controls with practiced skill. After a moment, a conversation filled the bridge, translated by their computer. "The weapon will be ready for deployment within 60 days, a Sikaran voice reported. "The Council has approved the final testing phase." "Good," replied a second voice. "The humans continue to accept their restrictions, but our observers report increased activity in their shipyards. They may be planning something. This weapon will ensure they never become a threat." Tejo and his crew exchanged alarmed looks. "The weapon is designed specifically for us," Mingi whispered. "They plan to use it against Earth." "We need to get this information home immediately," Sun Wu urged. Tejo made his decision. "Prepare for emergency jump to Earth. Use the coordinates for the dark side of Mars. We will contact headquarters from there." 2 days later, Tejo stood in the secure meeting room beneath New Seoul. The evidence they had gathered was displayed on large screens around the room. Jiyeon Park, now Earth's Director of Galactic Affairs, watched the recordings with a grave expression. "This confirms our suspicions," she said when the presentation ended. "The Council preaches peace and restraint while allowing their favored species to build weapons of mass destruction." President Hyunju Lee shook her head slowly. "And these weapons are meant specifically for us. We have been patient for 3 years, Tejo said. "We have followed their rules while gathering evidence of their corruption and double standards. How much longer must we wait before taking action?" Jiyeon looked thoughtful. "Operation Whisper has given us valuable intelligence, but we need more. We need to understand how the Council truly functions, who makes the decisions, and which species might sympathize with our situation." "How do we do that?" asked Defense Minister Gisu. "We infiltrate," Jiyeon replied simply. "Not just with ships, but with people. We place humans throughout galactic society, as workers, traders, servants if necessary. People who can listen, learn languages, study technologies, and discover secrets." President Lee nodded slowly. "It is risky, but it might work. The Council thinks of us as primitive and isolated. They will not expect us to be among them." Over the next 2 years, human agents spread throughout nearby systems. They did not use Council transport, which would have been detected. Instead, they traveled on the growing fleet of stealth ships that Earth was building in secret. Some humans found work on trading vessels. Others joined the staff of wealthy aliens who visited Earth for its unique resources. A few even managed to secure positions on the Council station itself, working in the lower levels as maintenance workers or food preparers. All the while, they listened. They learned. They sent information back to Earth through coded messages hidden in regular trade communications. Captain Tae-ho continued to command the Phantom, now one of 12 stealth ships exploring beyond allowed boundaries. They discovered that Earth was not the only world unhappy with Council rule. Many species had been classified as Category 3 or 4, restricted and controlled despite their potential. The Navarans, a species of brilliant mathematicians, had been Category 3 for centuries because their thought patterns were deemed potentially disruptive. The Zeridian collectives, with their unique connected consciousness, were kept isolated because the Council feared their ability to share knowledge instantly. The Trell engineers, whose innovative technology could solve energy problems across the galaxy, were confined to their home system. "We are not alone in our frustration," Tae-ho told Ji-yeon during a secure meeting. "There are dozens of species who might stand with us if we challenge the Council. But we cannot fight them directly," Ji-yeon reminded him. "Their military power is still far beyond ours." "True," Tae-ho agreed. "But there are other kinds of power. The power of information, the power of unity, the power of speaking truth to a galaxy that has heard only the Council's version for too long." As they talked, neither knew that events were already in motion that would force their hand. On Europa, one of Jupiter's moons, a small scientific outpost had detected something that would soon bring Operation Whisper into the open. The time for silence was coming to an end. Soon humanity would speak. The emergency alarm blared through the United Earth Government headquarters in New Seoul. Officials rushed to the crisis room where President Hyun-joo Lee already stood before a large screen. Her face was grim as she watched the incoming transmission. The screen showed Dr. Jun-ho, head of the scientific outpost on Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. His laboratory was filled with smoke, and warning lights flashed behind him. "We are under attack," he shouted over the noise. "3 Sikaran vessels appeared without warning. They have destroyed our main research facility. We have 22 dead already and—" A loud explosion cut off his words. The screen went black. "Get them back," President Lee ordered. "Send help immediately." Communications Director Yoon-ji worked frantically at her console. "We have lost contact with the Europa station. The nearest defense ships are 3 hours away." The room fell silent. This attack was not just a tragedy. It was a breaking point. Ji-yeon Park, now Earth's Director of Galactic Affairs, entered the room. "Madam President, we must contact the Council immediately. This is a direct violation of galactic law. Even under our Category 4 status, we have the right to operate scientific facilities within our own solar system." "The Council already knows," said a voice from the doorway. Captain Tae-ho Kim walked in, still wearing his flight suit from the Phantom. "I received this transmission 2 hours ago." He activated his portable device and a new image appeared on the main screen. It showed the Council speaker Ril Nath, addressing what appeared to be an emergency session. "The incident at the human outpost on Europa is unfortunate," the crystal being said. "However, preliminary reports indicate the humans were conducting unauthorized research into Council communication systems. The Sikaran vessels were performing a routine patrol when they detected this violation." "That is a lie," growled Security Chief Sun Woo, who had followed Tae-ho into the room. "The Europa station was studying the ocean beneath the ice. They had no communications equipment beyond standard transmitters." Tae-ho nodded. "The Sikaran attacked because they discovered we had proof of their illegal weapons program. A program the Council knows about but chooses to ignore." President Lee looked at each person in the room, her decision already made. "How many died in the attack?" "Final count is 42 scientists and support staff," Yoon-ji reported quietly. 42 lives," the president repeated. 42 humans, killed because we dared to learn the truth." She straightened her shoulders. "It is time for Operation Voice. Prepare the transmission package." Ji-yeon looked shocked. "Operation Voice? But we plan to gather evidence for at least another year before—" "We have enough," Tae-ho interrupted. "We have followed their rules for 5 years. We have recordings of Council members approving illegal weapons. We have evidence of species, classifications based on politics rather than actual risk assessments. We have proof of corruption at every level of their government." Sun Woo nodded firmly. "And now we have 42 dead humans. If we wait longer, There will be more. The president turned to her communications director. Yunji, how quickly can we send the transmission to all human agents across council space? Within 3 hours, Madam President. But once we activate Operation Voice, there is no going back. The council will know everything we have been doing. I understand. President. Lee looked around the room. This is not a decision I make lightly, but we cannot allow the council to believe they can kill our people without consequences. Within hours, a coded signal reached every human operative placed throughout council space. Each one knew exactly what to do. At precisely the same moment, they accessed the communication systems they had secretly studied for years. Some worked in maintenance, others in communications centers. A few had even become trusted assistants to powerful aliens. Together, they launched a simultaneous broadcast that reached every inhabited world in council space. The message began with footage of the Europa attack, showing innocent scientists dying under Sikaran weapons fire. It continued with evidence of council corruption, species favoritism, illegal weapons programs, and the systematic suppression of developing worlds. President Lee's face appeared at the end of the broadcast. She spoke clearly and directly. People of the galaxy, we are humanity from the planet Earth. For 5 years, we have lived under restrictions imposed by the Galactic Council. We were told these limitations were for peace and stability. We have now learned they are tools of control and suppression. The Council claims to protect all species, but they favor the powerful and ignore their crimes. They restrict some worlds, while allowing others to build planet-killing weapons. Today, they stood by as 42 humans were murdered for discovering these truths. We speak not just for humanity, but for all species the Council has deemed unworthy. We reject the notion that peace requires submission. We demand equal treatment under fair laws. We call for reform of a system that has become corrupt and unjust. We do not seek war. We seek justice. Join us in this call, and together we can build a better galaxy for all sentient beings. On the council station, alarms sounded as the unauthorized broadcast overrode all regular communications. Council members rushed to emergency sessions demanding explanations and action. How did they do this? Demanded the Veldari representative, one of the younger council species. How did a Category 4 species bypass our most secure systems? It does not matter how, growled the representative of the Sikaran. What matters is punishment. I move that we authorize immediate military action against Earth. They have violated dozens of regulations. Agreed, said several of the older council members. This cannot be tolerated. Speaker Rilnath raised a crystalline arm for silence. A containment fleet will be dispatched to the Sol system immediately. Earth must be isolated completely until this rebellion is crushed. What the council did not expect was the response from other worlds. On Navarros, the mathematicians who had been restricted for centuries gathered in their central plaza, demanding their government support Earth's call for reform. In the Zeridian Collective, millions of connected minds reached consensus in an instant. The humans were right. The Trell engineers, whose technology had been limited by council decree, began secretly sending technical data to Earth, offering help for the coming conflict. Back on Earth, Tai-Ho stood with Ji-Yan and President Lee as reports flowed in. We are receiving transmissions from 17 different systems, Yunji reported, her eyes wide with amazement. They are all pledging support for Earth. Some are even sending ships to help defend us against the Council fleet. It worked, Ji-Yan whispered, watching the reports fill the screens. We are not alone. Tai-Ho nodded, feeling both hope and concern. The Council will not give up power easily. The hardest part is still ahead. Then we will face it together, President Lee said firmly. Not just as humans, but as allies with all who believe in true justice. As the Council containment fleet began its journey toward Earth, something unprecedented was happening throughout the galaxy. Species that had never communicated directly with each other were finding common cause. A movement was beginning. The silence was broken. Humanity had spoken, and the galaxy was listening. Captain Tae-Ho Kim stood on the bridge of the Defiance, now the flagship of Earth's defense fleet. Through the large viewing window, he could see the 200 ships that made up humanity's space forces. They were arranged in a defensive pattern around Earth, ready for the coming conflict. "The Council fleet will arrive in 6 hours," reported Lieutenant Hanbin from the communications station. "Our long-range scanners show 76 vessels, including 3 dreadnoughts." Tejo nodded grimly. Earth's ships were outnumbered and outgunned. The Council vessels carried weapons and shields far more advanced than what humans had developed. But they would fight anyway. They had to. "Captain," Hanbin called out suddenly, his voice rising with excitement. "We are receiving transmissions from 17 different systems. They are all pledging support for Earth." Tejo turned quickly. "Show me." The main screen filled with messages from across the galaxy. The Navarans, whose mathematical brilliance had earned them nothing but restrictions for centuries. The Zeridian collectives, whose unique hive consciousness had been deemed potentially destabilizing by the Council. The Trell engineers, whose advanced technology had been limited to their home system, despite its potential to solve energy crises across the galaxy. All species that had been judged, restricted, and controlled by the Council's arbitrary classification system. "It is working," Ji-Yeon whispered as she entered the bridge. As Earth's Director of Galactic Affairs, she had been working tirelessly to coordinate with these potential allies. "We are not alone." "But will they send actual help?" asked Security Chief Sun Woo. "Messages of support will not stop Council weapons." As if in answer to his question, the sensors began to light up with new contacts. "Captain, we have multiple ships dropping out of FTL at the edge of our system," reported the sensor officer Mingi. 40. No, 50. Now 75 vessels of various sizes and configurations. "Are they Council reinforcements?" Tejo asked tensely. Mingi shook her head, her eyes wide with surprise. "No, sir. I am detecting recognition signals from the Navarans, the Trell, the Zeridians, and at least 9 other species. They are hailing us on all frequencies." "On screen," Tejo ordered. The face that appeared was not human. It belonged to a Navaran with pale blue skin and large dark eyes that reflected light like polished stones. "People of Earth," the Navaran said. "I am Admiral Thal of the Free Worlds Coalition. We have heard your message. We have seen your evidence. For too long we have accepted the Council's rule without question. No more, we stand with you." Cheers erupted across the bridge. Tejo raised his hand for silence. "Admiral Thal, we welcome your support, but you should know that the Council is sending a containment fleet. They will be here within hours. If you stand with us, you will be branded as rebels too." The Navaran's expression did not change, but his voice grew stronger. "We have been treated as lesser beings for generations. The Council called us unstable, unpredictable, dangerous. They use these labels to keep us from our rightful place among the stars. We would rather fight as equals than live as servants." One by one, representatives from other species joined the transmission, each pledging their support and resources to the cause. Ships from 12 different worlds moved into formation alongside Earth's fleet. "The Council never expected this," Ji-Yeon said quietly to Tejo. "They thought we would stand alone." "They underestimated humanity's greatest strength," Tejo replied. "Not our technology or our fighting skills, but our ability to inspire others to join together for a common cause." At the Council station, emergency sessions continued as reports of the growing rebellion flooded in. The chamber, unchanged for thousands of years, now witnessed unprecedented chaos. "This cannot be allowed to continue," declared the Seekeron representative, his scaled face flushed with anger. "These lesser species are coordinating their efforts. If we do not crush this rebellion immediately, it will spread." "The containment fleet is almost at Earth," reported Speaker Rilnath. "They will isolate the humans and then deal with each rebellious world one by one." One of the younger council members, the Veldari representative, stood up. "Perhaps we should consider the humans' evidence. If there is corruption within our ranks, if some worlds have been unfairly classified—" "Silence," commanded one of the elder members. "We do not negotiate with rebels. The Council has maintained peace for 10,000 years. We will not change our ways because of the complaints of primitive species. Back in Earth's orbit, the combined fleet of former Category 3 and Category 4 species prepared for the coming battle. Captains and admirals from worlds that had never worked together before coordinated their strategies and shared their technology. The Trell provided shield upgrades for the human vessels. The Navarans offered their advanced targeting systems. The Zoridians shared their unique communication network that could not be jammed or intercepted. This is more than just a fight for Earth, Tejo told the assembled fleet commanders during their final briefing. This is a fight for all species who deserve a voice in how the galaxy is governed. The Council fleet has entered the system, reported Mingi. They will reach Earth orbit in 30 minutes. Tejo nodded and opened a channel to all allied ships. This is Captain Tejo Kim of Earth. Today we face a force that has ruled the stars for millennia. They believe their power gives them the right to decide which species deserve freedom and which do not. They believe we should accept our place at the bottom of their hierarchy without question. He paused, looking at the faces of his crew, human and alien alike. But we know that true peace cannot exist without justice. True unity cannot exist without equality. We do not fight today to destroy the Council, but to transform it into what it should have been all along, a true community of worlds where all sentient beings have a voice. The Council fleet appeared at the edge of sensor range, a wall of massive ships moving in perfect formation. At their center was the flagship of the Supreme Commander, a vessel 3 times the size of anything in the Allied fleet. They are broadcasting a message to all ships, Hanbin reported. Let us hear it, Tejo ordered. The cold, mechanical voice of the Council Supreme Commander filled the bridge. Attention, rebellious vessels. You are in violation of Council law. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in your immediate destruction. Tejo exchanged glances with Jiyan and Sunwoo. This was the moment of truth. They could still surrender, still try to negotiate from a position of weakness. But the decision was not theirs alone to make. Before Tejo could respond, Admiral Thal of the Navarans opened a channel to the Council fleet. We do not recognize your authority to make such demands, the Admiral stated firmly. For too long, we have accepted your rule without question. That ends today. We demand reform. We demand justice. We demand our rightful place as equals in this galaxy. One by one, representatives from each allied species added their voices to the challenge. The Council Supreme Commander's response was immediate. Then you have chosen destruction. The massive Council vessels began to power up their weapons. The Allied fleet moved into defensive positions. Tejo took a deep breath and opened a channel to all ships. For Earth, for freedom, for a better galaxy. As the Council fleet opened fire, the battle that would change the course of galactic history began. The battle lasted 14 days. 14 days of fire and destruction as ships from both sides were damaged or destroyed. The Council fleet had better technology and bigger weapons, but the Allied forces had something stronger, a cause they believed in with all their hearts. Captain Tejo Kim stood on the bridge of the Defiance, which now showed the scars of combat. 3 of its 4 engines were damaged. The hull had been breached in multiple places, though emergency systems had sealed the gaps. Half of the weapon systems were offline. Status report, he called out, his voice hoarse from giving orders for days without enough rest. The Council fleet has lost 23 ships, reported Mingi from her damaged sensor station. We have lost 17, but their remaining vessels still outgun us 3-1. Tejo nodded grimly. They could not win this battle through firepower alone, but they had never expected to. What about the rest of the operation? He asked. Communications Officer Hanbin looked up from his console. It is working, Captain. Trade routes across Council space are blocked by our allies. Communications between Council worlds are jammed, and several Category 1 worlds are facing resource shortages as previously subjugated species have stopped shipments of critical supplies. This had been their real strategy all along, not to defeat the Council militarily, which would be impossible, but to show them that the galaxy could not function without cooperation from all species. "Captain," Hanbin called out suddenly, "we are receiving a transmission from the Council. Station. 3 council members wish to speak with representatives of the Alliance." Teho exchanged surprised glances with Ji-Yon, who had remained on the bridge throughout the battle. "Which council members?" Ji-Yon asked. "The Veldari, Tholotians, and Mentorites," Hanbin replied. "They are the 3 youngest species on the council." "Put them through," Teho ordered. The main screen lit up with the images of 3 beings. The Veldari representative had greenish skin with leaf-like patterns. The Tholosian was tall and thin with 4 arms. The Mentorite was a small, round being with large eyes that took up most of its face. "Greetings, people of Earth and allies," the Veldari spoke first. "We have called for an emergency session of the full council. We believe it is time for change." "Why should we trust you?" Teho asked cautiously. "You have been part of the system that classified and restricted us." The Veldari nodded sadly. "Yes. And we were wrong. We were all once emerging species ourselves. Our own histories involved conflict before we achieved unity. We have become what we once feared, oppressors who use peace as a justification for control. The evidence you shared has opened many eyes," added the Tholosian. "Not all council members wish to continue this fight. Some of us believe it is time for reform." Ji-Yon stepped forward. "What exactly are you proposing?" "A ceasefire," said the Mentorite, "and negotiations for a new galactic order, one where all sentient species have a voice, not just the oldest and most powerful." For a moment, Teho was silent, considering their words. This was what they had fought for. Not to destroy the council, but to change it. "We will need guarantees," he said finally. "And any agreement must include representatives from all allied species, not just Earth." "Of course," the Veldari agreed. "Will you come to the council station to begin talks?" Teho looked at Ji-Yon, who nodded. "I will go," she said. "As Earth's Director of Galactic Affairs, I am authorized to speak for humanity." 3 days later, Ji-Yon Park stood in the Great Council chamber, the first human ever permitted to address the full assembly. The massive room was unchanged in its design, with 12 high seats arranged in a circle. But something fundamental had shifted in the hearts and minds of those who sat there. "Honored representatives of the Galactic Council," Ji-Yon began, her voice steady despite the historic importance of the moment. "We do not stand before you seeking to destroy what you have built. The ideal of a united galaxy working toward peace remains beautiful and worthy." She paused, looking at each council member in turn. "But genuine peace cannot exist without equality. It cannot exist without justice. It cannot exist without respect for all sentient life, regardless of their evolutionary path or history." The chamber was silent as she continued. "Humanity has been judged by our past. We have been told that our history of conflict makes us dangerous. Yet every species in this galaxy has known conflict. Every world has seen war. What matters is not where we began, but where we choose to go together." For 5 days, representatives from Earth and the allied worlds met with the Council. They argued, they debated, and finally they agreed. The galactic concord that emerged transformed how the stars were governed. The Council expanded to include rotating representatives from all categories of worlds. Technology sharing became more equitable. The classification system became a set of guidelines rather than rigid restrictions. And humanity, once deemed too volatile for the stars, became known as the voice that shattered complacency. 5 years later, Captain Tae-Ho Kim stood on the bridge of a new ship, the Harmony. It was the first Earth vessel commissioned for joint species exploration beyond known space. Beside him were officers from 6 different worlds, including former council races. "Course is plotted, Captain," reported his Navaran navigation officer. "We are ready to explore the regions beyond the Sagittarius Arm." "All systems operational," added Science Officer Mingi, who had chosen to join this historic mission. The New technologies shared by the Trell and Zeridians are functioning perfectly. Tejo nodded, looking at the unfamiliar stars on the view screen. After all the fighting, all the tension and fear, this was what they had truly been seeking. The chance to explore together as equals. "Captain," called Communications Officer Hanbin. "We are receiving a message from Earth. Director Park wishes to speak with you before we depart." The screen showed Ji Yan, now the leader of the Joint Human Galactic Affairs Office. Her face showed the same determination it had 5 years ago, but now there was also contentment. "Tejo," she said with a smile. "The council session just ended. The last of the old classification restrictions has been removed. All worlds now have equal rights to colonize, trade, and develop as they choose, provided they respect the basic rights of other sentient beings." "That is wonderful news," Tejo replied. "The final piece of what we fought for." Ji-Yeon nodded. It was not easy. Some of the older council members resisted until the end, but they finally understood that true strength comes from unity, not control. "And now we explore," Tejo said, gesturing to his diverse crew. "Not as conquerors or competitors, but as friends seeking knowledge together." "Safe travels, Captain," Ji-Yeon said. "Show the galaxy what humanity truly is." As the transmission ended, Tejo looked around at his crew, feeling a deep sense of pride and purpose. "Ready for the jump, Captain?" asked his Navaran officer. Tejo nodded, looking at the stars ahead. "A new frontier for a new galaxy. Let us go." The Harmony engaged its engines and leaped into the unknown. The council still existed, but it no longer ruled the stars. It served them, all of them, and that made all the difference in the universe. The voice of humanity had been heard. The stars would never be the same again.